So I know it's been a long time since my last update. That's in small part due to the holidays, but more so just because I've had a lot of stuff to kind of work on the back end of things. That's, a lot of changes that aren't really quite as visible or good for demoing, but I've still got a few things to show. So first of all, last time I put in a character, which was just a bounding box. Now it actually supports rendering a more advanced character. So I'm just going to place one in here, and I've got sort of a prefab model, or not prefab model, but a pose that I've built and saved, and that's going to load that. So let me zoom in on this guy. So you can assign different materials to different limbs, and this is also kind of low resolution right now, but you can render at any resolution. So let's edit his pose so you can see. So you can change the materials on each limb, and like editing the other limbs, it'll mirror those changes. So if I want to change this one on his pants, just change it to something that you can see. I don't know, change it to the grass texture. So now he's got bright green shorts. Last week it was a bounding, or sorry, last time I updated it as a bounding box. Now, oh, whoops, let's see here. There we go. Okay. So I also added in this, camera that follows them around. You can rotate the camera around, it'll snap back. Right now it's still not like incredibly usable because it gets cut off by other objects, but it still works okay for right now. You can zoom in and out. So it's decently functional, works right now. So in addition to that, I put in a lot of UI functionality. So as far as the character, you can load, change, save and load poses. So if I want to, let's just change them around a bit so I can see saving a pose. Okay, so save this as my pose 4. Okay, now if I load my old pose, I think it was called my pose 1. So load pose, my pose 1, loads that original pose that I had. If I load my pose 4, loads it back there. So these different poses are useful for creating different states of animation or different characters, and there's still a lot of stuff that can be done with it, obviously, but it's a good start. And it allows you to save different keyframes for animation, like walking and things like that. So in addition to that, I've migrated the entire material editor. I don't know if any of you have seen the old one. I demoed it in a couple of Twitch streams, but it ran in a web browser and then got sort of sent information over, Ethernet or Wi-Fi to the client here. But now it's all migrated to the client, and it's cleaned up a lot and a lot more usable. So let's edit some material here, like the grass, for example, just so you can see. So as it goes left to right, that's sort of dark to light on the, how the light reflects off the material. So you can change it, around and make the grass more blue here, just so you can see. So it's pretty easy to use. Make some quick changes, and also since I assigned that grass material to his shorts, I changed that too. So that's the basic gist of the material editor. And also on the material editor, it not only goes, you can edit materials, on the lighting ramp going left to right, but top to bottom you can edit it as well, which allows for variations in the material. So here it's kind of mixing between green and blue to create a different variation, and that can be used for things like, for example, these rocks. Let's find the earth texture. So these rocks are actually composed of 5 different sort of materials that get blended together, and you can see it changes as the elevation changes to kind of simulate layers and terrain, but it's obviously not that accurate, but I mean, it kind of provides an interesting effect for some variation in the color and the terrain. So when you edit these properties, you can edit basic things like the hue, saturation, lightness, and these the way the UI works, it's kind of separated the data from the presentation is pretty standard. So you can create a sort of minimal set of data and edit it with the UI, and it actually figures out how to map all this stuff, so it really minimizes the amount of work you have to do. So for example, if I look at the file where the materials are stored, it's all pretty basic. This is just straightforward data, representing the colors and positions on the gradients and so forth. But the actual data that's used in the UI is much more complicated, but it avoids, having to save a bunch of data from the UI if you had like a one-to-one mapping or something like that. So in the let's look up. Okay, so for example, this represents all the things in the UI for just one set of those nodes. So it's quite a bit of data for just one node. So it kind of has this template that it applies out to the to each material node. I know this stuff is kind of boring, but it actually makes it a lot easier to work with the UI and saving and loading data and things like that. So it's pretty important change, even though it's not exciting. So basically the UI does a lot of the busy work in terms of figuring out how to lay out things, how to bind data, how to update data once you change something, how to respond to events. All of that stuff is handled. You can read more about that on my blog entry. I think it was the blog entry around the time the Kickstarter launched. On voxelquest.com, of course. So not only does it handle all that stuff, but when you create a material, it actually adds in a variable into the shader, and you can access that stuff directly in any shader if you wanted to apply, some special effect to a certain material. So a lot of sort of magic going on behind the scenes that just makes it easier to work with and edit, and takes care of a lot of the busy work. So that is pretty much it for this week. Also, you can see I just changed one little thing here, which is the terrain looks less blocky because it uses a sort of finer resolution for the macroscopic voxels. I can also just, reload everything I had, reset it. So let's try that. There we go. So let's render that character again. Okay, so you can save and load data a lot more easily, organize everything. In terms of the UI, a lot better, it's cleaner, less copy and paste code and so forth. So let's turn on loading here. There's a couple optimizations to loading. It loads chunks a little bit faster right now. And also one other sort of minor change is that the voxels are now square instead of round. I guess it looks a little bit better, but you can have it either way. The change is pretty simple. I kind of prefer the square voxels actually. So that is it for now. I think my character got disoriented. That's obviously a bug. But you can see, I don't know if I demoed it or not in the last video, but it, it collides with everything on the terrain and so forth right now. So, and collision is overall pretty accurate. It's definitely not bad. So there it is. As usual, any questions or anything, feel free to contact me. In these coming weeks, I'm going to be working on sort of managing the inventory, picking up and harvesting items, and rendering some additional NPCs and having them walk around and stuff. So, everything is going, a little bit slow maybe the past couple weeks, but I think things are going to pick up again in terms of what we can see visually. So that's it for now.